Hello there. It's me again, obviously, and it's been a while, as usual. And I didn't really have any clear direction or ideas in my head. I mean, I guess there is definitely a place for topic related videos, topic driven videos. However, there's always something intertwined with it, right? It's really difficult to talk about any one particular subject in isolation because there's just so many things that are intertwined. Even if you get into something, that's more politically related, um, for me anyway, I always end up spilling over spirituality, spiritual innuendos and concepts into it, just because I mean we're here in the physical world, and it's just part of what we're doing here. Like it's just this silly game that we're playing. Being born into this world, and I'm a man, I'm a woman, I have a dick, I have a pussy, and we're just going playing these stupid roles, and for what? We're just like these cartoon characters running around and like headless chickens, just trying to what? Trying to accumulate stuff. Just trying to make ends meet, trying to make money so that we could pay our taxes and our bills and um, what? Most people are just they have no direction really. They think that they do, but they don't. And it's usually the ones that are the most sure of themselves that have things to hide. You know, and the internet is a perfect example of that. I mean, it's kind of an extreme because I guess the internet is not as it's not as tightly regulated as say network television, for instance, right? Where there's much more of a spectrum, there's much more of a variety, and I suppose it's like a double-edged sword for the powers that be, if you will, or the ruling class, because on one side of things they could leverage social media in particular. They could leverage the internet to keep tabs on people, and you know who might have anti-establishment sort of concepts and ideas that they're putting out. And a lot of those, the most dangerous ones, dangerous quote unquote, and all that means is it's dangerous to their status quo, to their establishment, which is built on, just fleecing the public, fleecing people, and keeping them subjugated, keeping them dumbed down and stupid, which is really like child's play because most people are just like sheep, really. I mean, they're worse than sheep. They're worse than cattle. At least animals just they are what they are. They're more predictable. You're not going to have to worry about a sheep stabbing you in the back or running you over and breaking your leg or something like that. You know what I mean? In a car or something. Um, so in that way, animals just are like they are. They just are what they are. They're just more simple in that regard. Whereas humans have more layers of complexities, if you will, or just bullshit. Um, Programming, right? Which can make them more difficult, I'll say. It really makes me sympathize with people who are antinatalists, for instance. And this is something that is, interesting to me. And there's a guy on YouTube. Some of you may have heard of him. His name is Inmendham, I think. Inmendham. And in a lot of ways, I do sympathize with him because if I had no understanding or experience with spirituality, I would absolutely be an antinatalist. I mean, how could you argue against that? There's no logical argument against it. I mean, I've spoken to friends like, there's no way I'm procreating in this crazy nutbag world. It's just such a hostile place, especially for children. And even if like as a man you want to try to protect your kids, it's like the legal system is just so the establishment is just so hostile and just so rigged against against you. like the example of my friend and who I re-uploaded some videos from his channel on here. They didn't really get much reach, of course, because of the YouTube algorithms. Um, that's just one example. That there's a lot of fathers, around this country and around the world, surely, that have access issues with their kids. And it's not that they're deadbeats. For every deadbeat dad, there's a deadbeat mom. I can guarantee it. Um, so this whole idea, this whole concept that, oh, there are just hordes of, all these like deadbeat dads out there who just have no interest in their kids. Yeah, there are men who are like that. However, it's not just a male, an issue with men. You know, it's like the same thing with domestic abuse and domestic violence. That's not a gendered issue, right? That's more of a generational issue and an issue with alcohol and drug abuse as well. That's always, almost always, I would say most of the time, when there's abuse in a household, within a family or in a relationship, there's a lot of times there's going to be alcohol and drugs involved, right? So these things aren't gendered, but the way that they've been spun is that it's men. Men are the abusers. Men are the oppressors. Men are the aggressors, and it's bullshit. Am I supposed to just deny my own observations and experiences because some prick is trying to tell me, some prick with a platform is trying to tell me that, oh, well, this is how it's been and this is what it is. I'm just dumb doubting myself and denying my own intuitions and my own better senses. Because that's what everything is set up in this establishment. It's to get the more intelligent people, okay? If I may toot my own horn here, the people who are more aware, okay? The people with higher standards, with intelligence and ethics and these sorts of things. These are the people who are going to be marginalized the most, regardless of gender or age or race or anything like that. It's usually the people having the most difficult time are the people with the strongest conscience, right? And that's always how it's been. Those types of people who have always been, persecuted and marginalized throughout history. And it doesn't look like it's really going to change anytime soon. It might even get worse. I don't know. I don't want to be a pessimist. However, I just, I see what I see. Most people are just so scummy and so fucking selfish and stupid. It's just so pathetic. People are like the typical human out there is really not much more evolved than a worm. Really, when it comes right down to it. Humans are just like slightly less stupid apes, pretty much. Oh, like, look, we have our big brains. We can make all this technology and make all these toys and like, for what? And what good is it doing? I mean, this world is really it's just a big meat grinder. And all these people just so glib about everything. I can't be, there's a part of me that's really numb. Sometimes I just feel really numb to it. I'm just like, I don't give a fuck. And there's other times where, I'm not a glib type of person. I might come across that way as being kind of distant and aloof, but that's just because I'm kind of have to be, because I feel things. I'm a sensitive guy. I am. I've always been that way. And there's a vulnerability there where you have to protect yourself. You do have to distance yourself when you're that kind of person. You have to be very selective with who you let in, with who you let close to you, with who you share sensitive information with, because I've been burned just more times than I can count. And I'm sure I don't just speak for myself when I say that. there's just there's no reason, especially for the people watching my channel, okay, watching my content, of which there aren't very many nowadays, because I've changed directions with my channel, over the years, and but I just don't want to sell out. I don't want to sell out anymore, and I'm just done doubting myself and just being down on myself and doubting myself. And I think, if you're watching this content and if it vibes with you, then you should too. This world and everything in it is it's just lied. Like, don't believe the lies. Your intuition is going to be much more closer to the truth than any other bullshit that some asshole is going to try to tell you and shove down your throat. Be they on the internet, on the television, in person, at your job, at school, wherever, just out and about, wherever, whatever. Because most people are fucking nuts, and they're stupid. Not saying I've salvaged all my sanity, and I don't have it all figured out. But damn it, man, I'm just done. I'm just done doubting myself and being down on myself. It's just not a good place to be. That's really what I've struggled with throughout most of my life. You know, and it was just a lot of what I remember from childhood and just growing up through my teens and whatever, even into adulthood. It was just a lot of just bullshit, just from people. I mean, yeah, that there's always going to be a few nice people along the way, but they're not the rule. They're more the exception, right? So it's important to do what you need to do to just take care of business and preserve your sanity, you know, preserve some semblance of joy in sukkah in this life, whatever you can salvage from it. I'm not a doom and gloom type person, but I'm also not the type to just be all like chipper and glib when I don't really feel that way. And a lot of people can perceive that as being, oh well, he's just kind of like he's aloof, he's negative, he's dark, he's distant, whatever. And nothing could be further from the truth because I have really high standards. You know, I'm the type of person where I place a lot of value on loyalty. Just being loyal to your, not necessarily blind loyalty. Because that could be weaponized too against you. But just having just having high standards, with your relationships and your interpersonal relations in your day to day life. I'm the type of person where if somebody wants to tell me they want to learn how to fly, I'll tell them like, hey, I'm not going to say you can't do that. I'm going to say, hey, best of luck with that. If you crack that code, let me know. You want to live to be you want to live to be 1,000 years old? Hey, go for it. Why not? I'm not going to tell you you can't. I'm open minded. I have an imagination. And the more you utilize your imagination is really your greatest asset. I mean, that's ultimately your tool to liberate yourself. And people's imaginations have been hijacked. It's been weaponized against themselves. Most people's imaginations have been hijacked and weaponized against themselves to be put to use for somebody else. And that's what this establishment is set up to do. To enslave people. How do you enslave people? You hijack their imaginations or you suppress them. It's fundamentally where the buck ends, where the buck stops. And once you start to cultivate your own imagination, people say, well, free your mind, and yeah, that's true in a way, but really it comes from soul, it comes from your essence, the core of the whole thing. So yeah, just was kind of, I had an itch to come on here and just vent a bit because it's been a while, and I figured I have this platform, as humble as it is, and I know my videos don't get reached because, again, the algorithms and such. And if I was really gonna be 100% transparent and authentic, um, and just doing that with the MGTOW thing, for instance, I lost like 100 subscribers or something like that when I started. I think when I started to talk about the MGTOW stuff, because I guess a lot of those people were women, and they just got uncomfortable with it. Because for a while, this channel was about veganism and health and fitness and raw food and all that stuff, fasting, whatever, and that stuff's all great. And I think that's another direction that I really would like to go back go back into, because it's just productive, right? Your health and your vitality, your fitness. It's one of the only things you really have. It's really direct, immediate control over, or somewhat immediate. So it makes perfect sense to address those things. And in regards to health and fitness, and really just anything else, don't get too caught up in consumption and consuming other people's ideas and concepts, because something you got to understand too is the power of suggestion, right? The placebo effect or the nocebo effect, right? Which I guess they go hand in hand. Is that if you believe something strongly enough, it's going to have an effect, right? And I think that, and I believe that there is a limit to that, right? I was listening to, who's that guy, Bruce Lipton, right? He wrote I think it was the Biology of Belief years ago. I read the book. I just listened to some content of his somebody sent me, and yeah, I mean there's definitely validity to it. He touches on the placebo effect and how powerful it is, how powerful suggestion is, right? So the medical establishment, for instance, when you tell somebody that you have cancer and you got 3 months to live, most people believe that because they've been so indoctrinated into believing that these people, number one, have their best interests at heart and are authorities, right? We're supposed to put all of our trust in these authority figures, these so-called authority figures, when really the ultimate authority is you, because whatever you are uh, suggesting to yourself, whether that suggestion is from yourself or from an outside source, which for most people, most of the time, most of the suggestions that they're uh, suggesting to themselves is from other people, from outside sources, right? From authorities, from media, education, whatever. So they're indoctrinated into, this box of suggestions, where most of those suggestions are not to their interests, are not serving their interests, are not, going to benefit them in any way whatsoever. What is suggested to them is that, shut up, be a good boy, and behave yourself, pay your taxes, go to work, don't ask too many questions. Don't ask any. Certainly, don't ask any really hard questions or uncomfortable questions. You don't want to upset the apple cart, which is horseshit. That's just selling out. That's really fundamentally what sums up this life in this world, is really just people selling out, selling their souls, so to speak, right? I mean, we've all heard that expression, right? All these celebrities in Hollywood and the people who, climb those rungs to success and fame and status and fortune and riches and whatever, selling their souls, right? It's a big club. It's a good old boys club and girls club too. Wouldn't say it's just boys because that, of course that's the feminist narrative where, it's just a big patriarchy, right? All the horrible shit that you read in the news, it's most of the time it's men doing it. I'm like, well, yeah, that's because it's filtered. I mean, even like George Carlin said that, George Carlin's a guy who, I generally had respect for over the years because at least he got people thinking. But again, I lost a lot of respect for him because he just fed into that whole feminist narrative of, men oppressing women. Men are the oppressors. Men are these kind of knuckle dragging, dumb, loud, hairy, apish, aggressive, abusive creatures, right? And women are just these victims, these damsels. They just haven't had a voice throughout history, and and it's horseshit. Because the truth of the matter is that, most men are very easily manipulated by women, by the whims and suggestions, I'll say, of women because of that thing between their legs. Having a dick and testicles is a curse, is mostly a curse. And, I say that as a man who has had mostly disappointing experiences and observations with women throughout my life. And I know I don't just speak for myself. Am I some fat, hairy, greasy, smelly, disgusting, repulsive man? No, I'm not. That's the image that they want to paint, though. The establishment, certainly, the feminists, those more, I guess, leaning to the left side of the political spectrum, right? That, those MGTOW guys are just, and certainly, I don't really identify as MGTOW because, the whole manosphere thing is just kind of a big, bunch of sellouts and a bunch of people who think that they know more than they actually do, as is, as most movements turn into. Most movements or causes or ideas, concepts, right? They get hijacked. They'll put they have to put the truth out there to as the bait to bait people in, right? And then that's how they hook people, and then that's how they gain their trust, and then they'll throw some bullshit in there too, some poison, some toxins, and some ideas and concepts are more toxic than others, right? So, anyone you see on YouTube with any sort of prominence or following, getting any sort of real reach, the same goes for Facebook, Google, whatever. All these establishment platforms, right? Even a lot of probably most of the alternative ones, or the so-called alternatives. They're there because they're not really a threat. It's just kind of how it goes. The people like, and I keep bringing them up, the Renegade Broadcasting, Kyle Hunt, Sinead McCarthy, and I certainly don't do myself any favors by mentioning them. They've been banned off of every social media platform, they were never really even given a chance. They were constantly being censored, constantly over the years. And now, so that's why I always kind of chuckle when you see people with they'll get one video flagged or taken down, or whoever, some of the alternative news people, complaining. They're not really a threat. because if they were, they wouldn't even be allowed to have grown to the followings and the viewership that they have on these platforms anyway, right? And Renegade Broadcasting, as much as I certainly don't agree or see eye to eye with them or even respect everything that they like, everything that they say. I think at the core of things, they are on the ball with they've been hammering away at the fundamental truths about how this world works, who runs it, that sort of thing, and they've been very heavy, hammering away at the the pedophilia stuff, the child trafficking and the human trafficking and all this sort of stuff. In some regards, I do respect them, and yeah, they had a channel up recently, and I'm pretty sure it got terminated. So just find out who you're not, to find out who rules over you. Simply, just find out who you're not allowed to criticize, right? And there's that whole thing, and also find out who's being oppressed. Just learn who you're not allowed to support, right? And in this country, what's the worst thing you could be called? Anti-Semitic, right? Oh, you're a neo-Nazi. You're some type of white supremacist, like skinhead, right? Think about it. So anyway, this has gone on long enough. That's it for now. I'm starting to get my mind's starting to get a bit foggy. Been tired lately, but I'm working through it as always. We endure because that's all we do, right? Anyway, I hope this finds you all well. I hope you're doing well with wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and yeah, we'll talk soon. And I'm signing off for now. Bye.